The wallet felt heavy in Jason's hands inside. It was enough money to change his family's life, but it didn't belong to him. Jason stared at it, his heart racing, knowing this moment would define him forever. Little did he know the decision was about to make would set off a chain of events that would change his life in ways he could never imagine. Jason was just 14 years old, but life had already taught him lessons that many adults struggled to learn growing up in a small rundown neighborhood. Jason told him his dad died shortly after he was born. He grew up with only his mother. Jason was no stranger to hard work. His mother, Elaine, worked long horse at a diner, barely making ends meet to support Jason. Money was always tight. Jason's sneakers were worn. His backpack had holes, and their refrigerator often held more empty shelves than food, but Elaine had taught Jason one thing, that money could never buy integrity. Do what's right, Jason, she'd always say, especially when no one's looking. It was a regular school day when a very think tank. Jason walked home alone, the sun casting long shadows across the cracked pavement. His mind was on dinner. Mabeth'd have enough for something special tonight. As he turned the corner near Thepok, something caught his eye. Lying on the grass was a wallet. It wasn't just any wallet, it was sleek, expensive looking, the kind Jason had only seen in TV shows. Jason knelt down and picked it up, his curiosity taking over. Inside, his eyes widened as he found a thick wad of hundreds of dollars, maybe more. Alongside the money were shiny black credit cards and a crisp driver's license. The name on the ID read Robert Kensington. Jason's heart skipped a beat. Kensington wasn't just any name, it belonged to a millionaire whose face Jason had seen on billboards around the city. Jason's thoughts raced. This money could solve so many problems. His mum wouldn't have to take double shifts in armor. He could finally have new shoes for school. And Jason himself, he dreamed of a proper basketball for months, but it was always too expensive. But then his mother's voice echoed in his mind. Dowhats, right, Jason, even when no one's watching. Jason glanced around. The park was empty. No one would know if he kept wallet. He could walk away, and his family's struggles would ease, at least for a little while. But deep down, Jason knew the money wasn't his to take. He let out a sigh, clutching the wallet tightly. I have to find this guy, Hugh whispered to himself. Jason made his way home, the weight of the wallet in his shoulders heavier than ever. As he walked through his neighborhood, the familiar sights seemed to change. The kids playing in the street, the old man fixing his caravan, the graffiti on the brick walls, all seemed to remind him of the choice he had to make. As Jason walked home from Vin Park, his mind swirled with questions about what to do with the wallet. He knew it wasn't his, but the temptation lingered, especially when he thought about how much it could help his struggling family. Unable to keep the secret to himself, Jason decided to stop by his best friend Stanley's house. Stanley, always curious and full of opinions, was the first person Jason thought of for advice, but Jason had no idea the conversation would challenge his resolve. Even Jason sat on the edge of Stanley's bed, holding the sleek wallet in his hands. Stanley sprawled out in a gaming chair, paused his game, and stared wide at the thick wad of cash. Jason pulled out. Dota, you serious right now? Stanley exclaimed, leaning closer. This ice like a jackpot. Where did you find that? In the park, Jason said quietly. It was just lying there near the bench. Stanley's eyes darted between Jason and the wallet. Man, this is insane. Do you know how much money that is? You could fix a very for your family. Your mom wouldn't have to work double shifts anymore, and you could finally get that basketball you've been wanting. As Jason sighed, his grip tightening on the wallet. Yeah, but it's not mine, Stan. It belongs to someone else. There's even an ID in here. Robert Kensington, you know, the rich guy everyone talks about. Stanley let out a low whistle. Kensington thought, guy's loaded. Do you think he even notices when money goes missing? Come on, Jason. Think about it. He probably has 10 more wallets, just like this one. Jason shook his head firmly. It doesn't matter, Stan. It's still his. Stanley rolled his eyes, leaning back in his chair. You're too good for your own good. Man, seriously, this could change everything for you, for your mum. Think about how much easier life could be if you just kept it. Jason stared down at the wallet, the weight of Stanley's words pressing on him. For a brief moment, he considered the possibilities, the groceries they could buy, the bills they could pay, the smiles it would bring to his mum. But then his mum's voice echoed in his mind. Do what's right, Jason, even when no one's looking. I can't do that, Jason said finally, his voice steady. It's not who I am. Dan Lee threw his hands up. Man, you're tunist. Do you think returning that wallet going to fix your life? What if that guy doesn't even care? What if he doesn't give you a reward or anything? Jason looked up, his eyes blocking with Stanley's. Then, at least I'll know I did the right thing. That's enough for me, Stanley groaned, spinning his charan dramatically. Fine, be a sandhested sarcastically, but don't come crying to me when nothing changes. The screen wrapped around Stanley, but returning the wallet wouldn't be easy. Kensington was a busy man surrounded by layers of security and gatekeeper. Jason didn't have a phony number, an address, or even an idea of where to start. All he had was the wallet and the determination to do what was right, and what Jason didn't realize was that his journey to return the wallet would lead him into challenges he'd never faced before. People would doubt him, judge him, and try to stop him, but Jason's resolve was unshakable, and the choice he made that day would set him on a path he'd never forget. Would you have made the same choice as Jason? Tell us in the comments where you're watching from, and click the subscribe button now. If you believe that doing what's right always pays off, only those who don't believe in doing the right thing won't subscribe now. The wallet was safe in Jason's hands, but the challenge of finding its rightful owner loomed large. How do you reach someone like Robert Kensington, a man surrounded by layers of luxury and security? Jason didn't have the answers, but he knew one thing: he couldn't give up. Jason decided to start with the ID-th wallet. The address on it led to an upscale office building downtown, a place far from anything Jason had ever known. Next day, with the wallet tucked securely in his backpack, Jason took Thebes into the city. As he stepped off the towering skyscrapers and bustling streets felt overwhelming, a world so different from his neighborhood. But Jason pushed through his nerves, walking into the grand lobby of the building. Jason approached the marble reception desk, his heart pounding but his voice steady. "Excuse me, ma'am, I'm looking for Mr. Robert Kensington. I need to return something of his." The receptionist, a middle-aged woman with sharp glasses and an even sharper tone, glanced up briefly. Her eyes darted to Jason's scuffed sneakers and worn backpack. Her nose wrinkled slightly, then she glanced away. "Do you have an appointment?" she asked coldly, already looking back at her computer screen. "Oh, but it's real import," Jason replied, holding up the wallet as proof. Her eyes flicked to the wallet but quickly dismissed it. "Mr. Kensington doesn't have time for random walk-ins." Jason looked at her and said firmly, "Ma'am." The receptionist stationed his hardened look. "I don't know where you came from, but people like Mr. Kensington don't deal with people like you." Jason's stomach tightened at her words, but he stood his ground. "I'm just trying to do the right thing," he said quietly. The receptionist sighed loudly, then picked up the phone. "Security, have a situation at the front desk. Can you please escort this individual out of the building?" she said, her tone dripping with disdain. Moments later, two large security guards approached. Jason backed away slightly, clutching the wallet. "I'm not trying to cause trouble," said his voice trembling slightly. "Own off." The guards gestured toward the door. "Go, kid, you heard the lady." Jason hesitated, but when one of the guards stepped closer, he knew he had no choice. With his head down and the weight of embarrassment pressing on his shoulders, Jason walked out of the building. Behind him, he could hear the receptionist mutter, "Kids these days always looking for a handout," standing on the sidewalk outside the building. Jason felt a wave of emotions: anger, humiliation, and doubt. Every door he knocked on seemed to close in his face, and the world felt heavier with its rejection. Jason tightened his grip on the wallet and took a deep breath. This wasn't the end of the road, just another hurdle. He needed a new plan. Jason's next stop was a luxury car dealership. He'd seen advertisements that Robert Kensington was a major investor there, so it seemed like a logical place to try. Inside, the showroom room sparkled with brand new cars, their glossy finishes reflecting the bright lights above. Jason hesitated for a moment, then walked up to a salesman. "Excuse me, do you know where I can find Mr. Kensington?" he asked politely. The salesman chuckled, looking Jason up and down. "Kid, people like Kensington don't just walk into places like this. What do you want with him?" Hancock stood from his chair and looked Jason up and down with a pair of camouflage cloths. Jason held up the wallet. "I need to give this back to him. It's important." The salesman smirked. "Sure, kid, why don't you leave it with me? I'll make sure he gets it." But Jason shook his head. "I have to give it to him myself." The salesman's smile faltered. "Look, even if I knew where he was, I wouldn't tell you now. Why don't you run along?" the boy said. Something comprehends to himself, but ultimately checked his watch. Jason left dealership, his frustration growing. Every door he knocked on seemed to close in his face. He sat on a bench, clutching the wallet tightly, feeling the sting of rejection. Just as he was about to give up, he overheard two employees chatting. "No be Kensington's at that charity gala tonight." One sat alone, probably giving away more money than we'll see in a lifetime. Jason's ears perked up. A gala that might be his chance. It wasn't much of a lead, but it was all he had. With renewed determination, Jason stood up, his mind made up. He didn't know how he'd get into a high society event like a charity gala, but he was willing to try. This wasn't just about returning a wallet anymore. It was about proving that doing the right thing mattered even when the odds were stacked against him. He faced the full building of rising wood. You keep going like Jason if every door seemed to close in your face. If you admire Jason's determination, hit that like button and subscribe. The most exciting part of his journey is yet to come. Jason walked for several hours because he couldn't afford to board a cab to the venue. The sun dipped below the horizon as Jason approached the Grand Hotel hosting Theckerty Gala. The building shimmered with lights, its entrance lined with red carpets and luxury cars. It was a world Jason had never stepped into, and as he stood there clutching the wallet, heckled and helped but wonder would they even let him in. Jason took a deep breath and walked toward the entrance. Security guards in sharp uniforms stood talskening everyone who entered. "Excuse me," Jason said, his voice steady despite his nerves. "I need to speak with Mr. Kensington." "It's real import." Who? The guard raised unabrow, looking Jason over. "And you are a?" asked curtly. Jason held up the wallet. "I found this. It belongs to him. I just need to return it." The guard extended leases with his colleague before shaking his head. "Sorry kid, this isn't the place for you. Move along." Jason's shirt sank, but he refused to back down. "Please," he said, his voice firmer now. "I just need a few minutes with him." The guard crossed his arms. "I said no, move along before we call the cops." He crossed his arms again just as Jason turned to leave. A woman in an elegant gown approached the guards. She had overheard their conversation and stepped in. "What's going on here?" she asked, her tone authoritative. The guard guessed. "Read a word." "Jason, this kid's causing a scene. Says he's got something for Mr. Kensington." The woman looked Jason over, her gaze softening. "What's your name?" she asked gently. "Jason," he replied. "I'm just trying to return this wallet. It's heightened. I need to give it to him personalith." Woman nodded, her expression soft. "Let him in," she said firmly. The guards hesitated, but ultimately stepped aside, grumbling under their breath. Jason followed the woman into the dazzling venue, his heart racing with a mix of excitement and nerves. "Oh ma'am," the guards were saying about the sound of the music. The ballroom was breathtaking. Crystal chandeliers hung from the ceiling, casting a warm glow over the room. Guests in elegant attire mingled, their laughter and conversation filling the air for a moment. Jason felt completely out offless, clutching the wallet tightly. He scanned the room for Robert Kensington. His gaze landed on a man at the center of a small crowd, tall, impeccably dressed, and exuding an air of authority. It had to be him. Jason approached cautiously, waving through the crowd. When he finally reached Kensington, he hesitated for a moment before speaking. "Excuse me, sir," Jason said, his voice steady but quiet. "I think this belongs to you." Kensington turned, his expression initially one of confusion. Jason held out the wallet and recognition flash had across face. He took it, flipping it open and inspecting its contents. "Everything's here," Kensington said, his tone surprised. He looked up at Jason. "You found this?" Jason shook his head. Jason nodded. "Yes sir, I wanted to make sure it got back to you." The guests nearby watched the exchange with curiosity, some whispering among themselves. Kensington's expression softened. "You could have kept this," he said, his tone filled with curiosity. "Why didn't you?" Jason met his gaze, standing tall despite the eyes on him. "Because it wasn't mine," he said simply. "My mom always says doing the right thing is what matters most." The room grew quiet, through it of Jason's words settling over the crowd. Kensington stared at the boy, his face unreadable at first, but in it broke into a smile. "What's your name?" Kensington asked Jason. He replied, "Well, Jason, you've done something extraordinary tonight." Kensington said, his voice warm. "Come with him. Let him talk." As Kensington led Jason to a quieter corner of the room, the crowd buzzed with speculation. Who was this boy? What could possibly have to say to own off the city's most influential men? Jason didn't know what would happen next, but knew one thing: this night was far from over. Have you clicked the subscribe button? Do it now to not miss out on the inspiring stories. Jason sat across from Robert Kensington in a quiet corner of the opulent ballroom. The hum of the gala faded into the background as Kensington studied the boy in front of him. Jason, clutching his worn backpack tightly, didn't waver under the millionaire's piercing gaze. Little did Jason know this moment would reveal far more than just his character. It would expose truths that would leave every Aneston before Kensington could speak. Evelyn, one of the event coordinators, she had been watching Jason from the moment he entered, her suspicions heightened by his modest appearance. "Mr. Kensington," Evelyn said with urgency, glancing pointedly at Jason, "I've been keeping an eye on this boy. Are you sure he's not up to something? We've had issues with theft before." Jason's widened, his heart pounding at the sudden accusation. Kensington frowned, holding up the wallet. "This boy just returned something I thought was lost forever," he said firmly. "Why would you assume he's a thief?" Evelyn stammered, her fist running. "Well, he doesn't look like he belongs here." Anden's expression hardened. "And what does someone who belongs here look like?" Evelyn, he asked coldly. Evelyn wasn't done. She crossed her arms, her voice rising. "Look, I'm just saying. He could have taken the wallet and decided to return it for a reward, People do that all the time. Jason finally spoke up, his voice steadied despite the lump in his throat. I didn't owe this for a reward, he said. I did it because it was the right thing to do. Theron fell silent. Kensington leaned back in his chair, his eyes never leaving Jason. You've got guts, kid, he said. Evelyn, I suggest you stop talking before you embarrass yourself further. Kensington turned his attention back to Jason, softening. Tell me, Jason hesitated. Why go through all this trouble to find what? Jason hesitated for a moment, then answered and swore honestly, because it was the right thing to do, and because my family needs people like you to know we're not what we are. Kensington's brow furrowed. What do you mean? He asked. Jason took a deep breath, the weight of his would heavy. People look at us and think we're a trouble, that we're out to steal or cheat, but we're not. My mum works 2 jobs just to keep us going. We don't have much, but we have our values, and I wasn't going to let someone like her down. Kensington sat back, visibly mothered. Jason's honesty, the room once filled with whispers and judgmental stares, now buzzed with quiet admiration for the boy's courage. Kensington stood, his stirring presence commanding attention from everyone in the room. Ladies and gentlemen, he said, raising his voice lightly, I want you all to meet Jason. These young man went out of his way to return something valuable to he could have easily kept for himself, but what's even more valuable is his integrity, something this world desperately needs more of. Applause erupted throughout the room, the sound echoing against the grand walls. Jason, though overwhelmed, stood tall beside Kensington. But Kensington wasn't finished. He turned to Eveline, his voice ashy. And as for you, Eni, your behavior tonight has been unacceptable. Judging someone based on their appearance is not only unprofessional, it's disgraceful. Immediately you're relieved of your position. Evelyn's face turned pale. She stammered for words, but Kensington waved her off. There's an applause for prejudice in my company, he said firmly. Good, help me up. As the applause died down, Kensington placed a hand on Jason's shoulder. Jason, he said, people like you inspire me, and I want to help your family just like you helped me. Jason's eyes widened as Kensington pulled out a sleek black card and handed it to him. Take this, he said. It's a direct line to me. Whatever you and your need, I'll make it happen. As Jason walked out of the gala that night, the weight of the wallet finally lifted from his hands, but in its place was something much greater, a newfound sense of hope and the knowledge that doing what's right truly matters. Yes. Little did Jason know history would go on to inspire not just those in the room but countless others, proving that even the smallest act of honesty can create ripples. Off change. Smiling deliberately, he lowered his body into the earth as Jason home that night. The city lights flickered in the distance. In his pocket was the sleek black card Kensington had given him, a tangible reminder of how far had come, but the greatest reward was material. It was the pride in knowing he had done the right thing, even when it was hard. Her Jason stepped through the door. His mother, Elaine, was waiting for him, her face filled with a mix of worry and relief. Jason, where have you been? She asked, her voice trembling slightly. Jason smiled and pulled out the black card. You're not going to believe what happened. He sat down and recounted the entire story, from finding the wallet, to being thrown out of buildings, to the gala, and finally meeting Robert Kensington. Elaine listened intently, her eyes welling up with tears as Jason described Kensington's offer to help their family. Jason, she said, soft-lipping him into a hug, I've always been proud of you, but tonight you've shown me just how incredible you truly are. The next morning, Jason was getting for school. The sun cast a golden glow over the quiet neighborhood as a sleek black SUV pulled up in front of Jason's modest home. The vehicle's tinted windows gleamed in the morning light, drawing curious glances from neighbors. Out stepped a tall, imposing figure dressed in an immaculate suit, flanked by a discreet but muscular bodyguard. Then there was a knock at the door. Elaine, curious, opened it to find Robert Kensington standing there, impeccably dressed and holding a box of money and a bouquet of flowers. Elena froze, her breath catching in her throat. Her mind raced as recognition weighed her. She whispered, her voice trembling. Sensing's eyes widened as he Elaine, is that you? He said, his voice filled with disbelief. I never thought he'd see you again. Jason, standing behind his mother, looked between the two, confused. Do you know each other? He asked it hesitantly. Rob stepped inside his gas, never leaving Elaine. Jason told me about this incredible mother last night, he began, his voice soft. I didn't realize it was you, Elaine. We lost contact after high school. I searched for you after I came back from college, but you were nowhere to be found. I thought you'd moved. Lane's hands trembled as she gestured for him to sit. Robert, I didn't move on, she said quietly. I didn't even know where to find you, and I had no way to tell you I was pregnant. What? Jason's eyes widened as he looked at his mother. Pregnant? Therapy. His voice barely above a whisper. Elaine nodded, tears streaming down her face. Jason, Robert is your father. Lindy wed Tammy Chambers and fell into passive emotion. The room fell silent as thought of Elaine's words sank in. Robert looked at Elaine, his eyes filled with a mix of joy, regret, and disbelief. Jason is my son, he asked softly. Elaine nodded slowly. Yes. I got pregnant after that night we had together, but there was no way I could owe you. I had to tell Jason you were dead so that he won't ask me questions about you. Robert stood, his voice fulminant. Jason, I had no idea, but now that I do, I promise to make up for lost time. I'm not letting either of you go again. In the days that followed, Robert moved mountains to ensure his new had everything they needed. He bought Elaine a new home, provided Jason with the best education, and spent every moment he could reconnecting with them. But more than the material changes, it was the emotional bond they built that really transformed their lives. For the first time, Jason had a father and Elaine had the support she had always dreamed of. Their lives changed forever. Meanwhile, Jason's story continued to inspire millions. The viral video of his act of honesty now carried an even deeper one of resilience, family, and unexpected twists of life. Jason's life was forever changed, not just by Thualit, but by the choices he made. Helen that doing the right thing doesn't just bring rewards, it brings connections, hope, and some miracles. And as he looked at his new home, his loving mother, and his reunited family, Jason knew one thing for sure: life has a way of rewarding those who choose integrity over convenience. If Jason's incredible journey moved you, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Share this story with someone who needs a reminder that doing what's right can lead to the most beautiful surprises. Together we can spread messages of hope, resilience, and love.